All right, so it looks like David Pakman had put out a video yesterday about Anna Kasparian, because Anna Kasparian had done a critique video on Tulsi Gabbard, and the cult of Gabbard basically got really triggered over it, and saying that she was smearing her and all that nonsense. And I've been kind of staying away from this whole Tulsi Gabbard stuff at this point, because there's not really any way to sort of reason with these kinds of people. And it largely is like the Jimmy Dore-esque area, and so, I've had experience with dealing with the insane lunatics that exist over there. So, but we'll talk about it a little bit here. So David Pakman did a video about this, and he's going to make some points about this. He's going to talk about this because he's been going after Tulsi Gabbard too. It's just, and I have a very sort of, I guess, detailed take on the different things that David Pakman says, as well as the Anna Kasparian situation. So what I want to do is I want to roll the clip of David Pakman for you guys and then come back and talk about it. Check it out.
No doubt that there was a sort of cult of personality around George W. Bush. It's not just the right. There are a cult of personality around people that are ostensibly on the left. If you go back to the 2016 election, Jill Stein, I would criticize Jill Stein on issues, and the blowback would be, I'm an establishment shill, smearing Jill Stein. I'm a Jew who can't see the truth like Jill Stein is able to. All not super empowering of women for Tulsi to say, that woman who criticized me, she can't ask me any questions when I'm there, or I'm not participating. So this is not about Anna's perfect, Anna's right. I agree with Anna about some things. I disagree about others. I've known her for many years at this point, and I have a sense of her politics and her MO. This is not about, this is the person whose politics I'm 100% in line with, although we have a lot of points of agreement. This is about unfair smears that are examples of when the left starts to eat itself, and the toxic cult of personality that exists around Tulsi Gabbard. Now, I'm sure that if the Tulsi campaign were to give a statement about this, and maybe they will, I don't know, my guess is they would say, oh, well, there were time constraints and Tulsi knows Cenk and they have a history already, so we felt it would be better for a one-on-one interview. It wasn't anything against Anna. We just felt that it would be an interview best handled as a one-on-one. Whatever. This is lame. The toxic and angry followers around Tulsi Gabbard attacking Anna viciously are disgusting. And every element of this absolutely stinks. And this is exactly the type of thing that I talk about when I talk about cults of personality, when I talk about arguments that aren't really arguments, attacking the messengers and calling people shills and smearers when they are simply saying, this is what the person said, and this is my interpretation of that. And everything about this stinks. And this is the type of stuff that will lead to Donald Trump being reelected. Trump being reelected won't just be because Tulsi's followers attacked Anna. Okay, I'm not being myopic or childish in that way. But this type of thing developing around a particular candidate, it's just not good for the left. And if the number one priority is removing Donald Trump from office, this is not the way to do it. This is part of a bigger picture that is going to make it not happen and give us 4 more years of Donald Trump.
All right, so as you guys know, Anna Kasparian did her critique video, and then we found out, TYT is going to be doing an interview with Tulsi Gabbard, so this should be pretty interesting because, they'd be able to hash it out, and she'd be able to ask questions that she has and kind of, show us and everything that was kind of going on and just give us some more information on the whole situation. Anna says that basically Tulsi Gabbard had said that Anna can't be part of the interview. Now, if this is a true statement, which I don't have a reason to believe she's lying, in fact, it would be, I would be like, wow, that's fucked up if she did lie. So I don't think she did, because she'd be putting her own career in jeopardy, or her credibility, I should say. So I don't think she's lying. I would really, really hope not. And so, assuming she's telling the truth, obviously that's horrible. I mean, why would you? I don't even know why you would do that. It doesn't make sense to me why you'd want to do that. It seems like a bad move on your part for your campaign, especially. I'm also waiting for, supposedly Mike Figueredo from the Humanist Report was supposed to do an interview with Tulsi Gabbard. It seems like Tulsi Gabbard hasn't really been doing any interviews with people like Mike Figueredo, and it took a while to go on TYT as well. It seems like she's been doing them more with like in the independent media sphere. It's been more with like the ones that really like her rather than, I know she's gone on The View and other places on mainstream media, but it doesn't seem like she does it with independent media where she'll go on. I don't know. I'm assuming the Mike Figueredo interview is going to happen, hopefully. So I want to say that there's a cult of Tulsi Gabbard that exists. Now, you've got to always be very careful of cults, and they often exist, okay? And the way to sort of measure a cult is whether or not there's a sort of way to reasonably criticize the person. So what that means is like Bernie Sanders, right? Remember just recently Bernie Sanders had put out that tweet about Maduro where he criticized the Maduro regime, and people were getting pissed at him for that because he didn't type in there also that he's not for intervention. And he basically got ratioed or almost ratioed by his own supporters. He also tweeted out a tweet saying he doesn't support BDS. He also got a bunch of hate on that. Anytime you see the candidate being criticized by its own supporters, automatically you know that it's not a cult because they have no problem with criticizing the person that they're supporting. Now, with Tulsi Gabbard, anytime you levy criticism, you get called a smear merchant, or they're like, whoa, this guy attacked Tulsi Gabbard. It's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Anyways, so there's a cult of Gabbard currently as well as a cult of Yang. The Yang cult is really weird too because it's like a bunch of 4chan dudes. People on 4chan doing these really stupid, like the Yang bangers. I made that one up, actually. I think it's the Yang gang that they're doing now. So there's a bunch of, like, memes going on with the Yang community right now as well. So you got to watch out for these cults, man. Beware of these, okay? Now, neither of those campaigns are going to go far. But so I want to get to some of the things that David Pakman has said, right? So David Pakman, I think he mentioned in there that people would levy the charge against him that he's a smear merchant when he criticized both Tulsi Gabbard and Jill Stein. Now, David Pakman did smear Jill Stein really, really badly, and that was some of the worst content that I've ever seen from David Pakman in my entire life. Because the dude did I think he made a video claiming that she was actually anti-vaccine, which was a total hit job. But I even did a video recently, not recently, it was like coming up on a year now. But it was well after the 2016 campaign was over. That's why it was recent. And it was in the summer, and it was a report about Jill Stein's expenditures for her recount money that she had raised. And he did this story saying, well, where did the money go? Because the article headline was something like, it disappears and it doesn't tell you where. And then when you read the article, it tells you where it went. It went towards legal fees because recounts are extremely expensive to do. So it's going towards legal fees and the process of actually, filing the recount. And he just totally lied about that. It's like, dude, what hate boner do you have for Jill Stein? I didn't understand what it was. And so he certainly was a smear merchant of Jill Stein, no doubt, no joke. And with Tulsi Gabbard, he'll sometimes get into some weird territory, like that Koch brother funded thing. I don't feel very comfortable about that, about using that as a criticism, because I think Dennis Kucinich was also part of that whole area. So there are certain criticisms that are levied by David Pakman, which I'm very weary of, because sometimes he starts to delve into that territory, and I do not like that territory of being a smear merchant. Honestly, I really don't. Now, he also says, this is the type of behavior that's going to result in Trump? No, it's not. Don't be hyperbolic, dude. Tulsi's polling out 1%. The only people who care about Tulsi Gabbard, or the cult of Tulsi Gabbard, I should say, is people online YouTube. That's it. It's the only people who even know Tulsi Gabbard. So are, this small cult of Tulsi Gabbard online going to end up affecting the election? Of course not. No chance. She's going to go nowhere fast. Don't know how long she's even going to last in the race, because anybody who would support her would support Bernie Sanders. Doesn't make sense. And the way that she's running a foreign policy-centric campaign is not very attractive to many people, because the main issues is the economy. People want healthcare. People want those other things. And you could say that Tulsi Gabbard supports those things, but A, doesn't have the record that Bernie Sanders does on those issues. B, does not fight as hard for him. And C, she doesn't campaign for him as hard, and she's purposefully, voluntarily running a foreign policy-centric campaign. Now, foreign policy centric means the center of her campaign is foreign policy, not that she's centrist. I think there's some doofuses who thought that's what I was saying, which didn't make any sense. Anyways, and then also, I'm very, weirded out by this weird, devout religious support of Tulsi Gabbard. I don't even understand what the pull for Tulsi Gabbard is, because when you start doing like a deep dive into her record, you start to see two different people, and that's what weirds me out. So I was just reading more about her stuff. So do you guys remember when Netanyahu did that speech to Congress where he didn't talk to Obama about it, he didn't coordinate it, and the reason why he did the speech to Congress was because he wanted to torpedo the talks between Iran and the U.S. This was in the times of the Iran deal negotiations, right? So during that whole thing, there were like 60 Democrats who boycotted that speech, and Bernie Sanders was one of them. Who attended that speech? Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard had attended that speech. In fact, she had actually given out a message about it. Actually, she had put out a message about it as well. And you can see these like different messages that exist that she had that she had said, because they exist, online, that she put out. So she basically put out this message saying that here's her message that she gave out after attending this speech, in which the whole purpose of it was for Netanyahu to torpedo the negotiations between the United States and Iran to make sure that the Iran nuclear deal does not happen. Here's what she said. She said, "It's unfortunate that an issue as important as preventing Iran from attaining nuclear weapons has been muddled by partisan politics. This is an extremely serious issue at a critical juncture that should not be used as a political football. While the United States and Israel share a common objective in preventing a nuclear-armed Iran, the speech today and the events of this week made clear that there is a disagreement over how to best achieve that objective. Despite the impropriety of how the invitation was delivered, the U.S.-Israel relationship remains strong and founded on bipartisan recognition of its importance. While there is hope that a negotiated solution to this problem remains within the realm of possibility, I'm cynical there are a variety of issues, including having already conceded allowing Iran to enrich uranium, Iran's breakout capacity, and the continued lack of transparency and access for UN inspectors that are of genuine concern. The objective must remain at the forefront. We must work together to prevent a nuclear-armed Iran. The United States' relationship with Israel must rise above the political fray as America continues to stand with Israel as her strongest ally." So obviously a super weird thing to attend that speech that Netanyahu gave, where Netanyahu, she's like, "Oh, this issue is being used to political football." Doofus. Netanyahu appearing there, and the Republicans in Congress who controlled Congress at the time, the reason why they were doing that was a political football. So, look, dude, she attended it. I think Elizabeth Warren didn't attend it either. Bernie Sanders, I know, didn't attend this speech. And it's super weird because she was really bad on this Israel issue, and now I think back when the whole protests were happening, she was, going off on Israel, and it gives off this image of like her also being like pro-Palestine or whatever. I don't even know if she claims to be pro-Palestine, but you see two different people that exist here. And so while she voted for the Iran deal, she had spent the entire time of it being proposed completely shitting on the Iran deal, and it was really weird because it was a deal that brought peace. But what was really weird is I think she looked at one of the positives being that it didn't take military intervention off the table, which is like, what? I thought you're supposed to be the peace candidate. It just doesn't make any sense to me. And so I'm like, wait, well, what is your solution then if it's not what the Iran deal proposed? And the way she was framing it seemed to hint to something like that. And when it comes to her ties to far-right Narendra Modi, who is absolutely an anti-Muslim bigot and a piece of shit, her love for Narendra Modi, she also has ties to the RSS and the BJP, and these far-right, Hindu nationalist movements back in India. And as we saw with her tweet that she did about the India-Pakistan situation, obviously 100% the camp of India for, I don't know why. I wonder what the reason is why she's 100% in the India camp. She's definitely not biased in any way, shape, or form, right? So, anyways, the point I'm trying to make to you is there's a cult of Tulsi Gabbard. It'll subside as she'll flail in the election. No one will give a shit about her campaign. No one cares about Tulsi Gabbard. It'll be over, and that'll be that. And so as of right now, I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of, Jimmy Dore praise. Jimmy Dore has his liked videos playlist public, and in that playlist, there's like, he's at least liked one video, but he might have even liked multiple videos. Like someone uploaded a video of her at a town hall where she gives a shout out to Joe Rogan and Jimmy Dore, and he liked that video. So if you put yourself in the position of Jimmy Dore and you've literally got a presidential candidate giving you shout outs, I mean, and we know Jimmy Dore is a very immature, like dumb type of guy. He's not a very smart person. He's mostly emotion. So when you take into account that, like, oh, there's literally a presidential candidate giving you shout outs along the campaign trail, your primal sort of emotional type thing is going to steer you in that direction rather than a guy who's, not coming on your show because you're like a conspiracy theory lunatic. Anyways, so that's my conclusion. Let me know your thoughts on this down below.